Well, you know what? Cyriel Dessers certainly seems to be someone who not only divides the fan base over his effectiveness, but also divides the analysts and critics and Rangers media over his effectiveness. You know, you only have to listen to a range of podcasts, listen to a range of ex-Rangers players like Kenny Miller, Chris Boyd, Alan Hutton, etc., all talking about him to figure out that he does divide the critics, he does divide the media, and he does divide the room. Now, many people obviously argue that he has had a good season, given the fact that he has scored 19 goals this season already across all competitions, which, you know, yeah, is decent. It is decent, you know, in terms of those figures, how they look, you know, at this moment in time. 13 goals in the Premiership and 3 assists. That's 16 goals, or 16 goal contributions in 30 games. He scored in the Europa League, also in the Scottish League Cup, in the Scottish FA Cup, and in the UEFA Champions League as well. Obviously, you know, a goal in the League Cup, a goal in the Europa League, a goal in the Champions League, a couple of goals the other day that we saw in that semi-final. One very well taken goal indeed. Now, I think the situation is this, that realistically, he is what we've got at this moment in time. There is no one else. You know, Kemar Roofe is very unreliable. Danilo is obviously done for the season. I think, you know, there was talk about him possibly coming back at the end of the season to play. But, you know, realistically, what effect is he going to have? He's not going to be match sharp. You know, he's going to take time to get his match fitness. So realistically, from now, these last 6 games until the end of the season, all we have is Cyriel Dessers. Whether you like that, whether you don't like that, I don't know. It's up to you. Look, he has done very well with the number of goals he's scored. Don't get me wrong, 19 goals across all competitions is pretty impressive. And, you know, he will probably go over 20 goals across all competitions. I don't think he'll score 20 goals in the league this season. On 13, he's got to score 7 more. I can't see him doing that. However, there are a number of critics, including Chris Boyd, who say that he should have scored a hell of a lot more than those goals, you know, saying that he should be somewhere up around about 25 to 30 already this season, given the number of chances that Rangers create and the number of very simple chances that he has missed at critical times. You've only got to go back to that Ross County defeat the other day to see those 2 absolute sitters that he misses, that had he put either of those 2 away would have substantially changed the result and obviously put this league title back in our hands. Not saying, of course, that he's solely to blame for this. He is not. A number of players have not contributed and have made mistakes at fundamental times during this season. In addition to that, obviously, there was the genuinely bad start that Michael Beale had that has cost us a number of points. So, look, I'm not blaming him entirely, but all I'm saying is, had he taken those 2 chances against Ross County, we would be looking at a very different league at this point in time. Dessers, you know, as a player, does take chances, but then he misses some very simple chances. Now, Phillipe Clement has been talking about his striker. And then, you know, Phillipe Clement, I think, went for it in terms of the kind of that shit sandwich kind of approach to things, a positive and negative, a positive. You know, he talked about the fact that if you looked at Cyriel Dessers now compared to Cyriel Dessers when he took over, that he is a substantially better player. And I think we can all agree that on the whole, he is a substantially better player than he was when Phillipe Clement took over. When Clement took over, he was lacking form. He looked unfit. Had an inability to score. The fans were certainly booing him. It was not looking good for him. Clement comes in, and I think, you know, with virtually every single player in the squad, Clement has improved virtually all the players, bar Barisic, I think, who is genuinely dreadful. But look, Dessers does miss a lot of very simple chances. You know, the Parkhead situation where, again, if he scores that goal, that result, I think, comes out a whole lot differently. You know, he lacks a killer instinct, and that is what Phillipe Clement talked about. Phillipe Clement talked about the fact that he doesn't have he's not a natural finisher. He's not a natural killer in the box. Now, if you look back at strikers like Chris Boyd, Nacho Novo, you look back at Ali McCoist, and I think the comparison between McCoist's first 2 seasons and Dessers' first seasons are wholly inaccurate. McCoist was an exceptionally young player when he first started at Rangers. Dessers is 29 years old, is an experienced pro. So I think for those fans who say, well, look at McCoist's start to the season, the amount of chances he missed, I don't think that's comparing like with like. That's comparing a very young player coming up against a very experienced player, and I don't think you can make that comparison. So, you know, you look at those finishers, you look at the likes, obviously, of as well Negri, players like that ilk, you know, and you look at the way they took chances. Chris Boyd, obviously, been the primary one, you know, that had that killer instinct in the SPL, that wanted to finish, that knew how to finish, that would get that crucial goal at that crucial time. Dessers lacks that finishing killer touch. Now, I'm not saying that he is shit or garbage. What I'm saying is that he is a player that I think can play a role, but he's certainly not a starting quality striker for Rangers. He is not of that sufficient talent for me. He just does not have the ability or the talent to be our main number 9. I think he is a very good backup striker. I think he could do a job coming off the bench. Whether or not he would do that, who knows? But Clement is right, I think, when he says that he's too nice and he lacks a killer instinct. He needs to develop that killer instinct if he wants to be a top player. Now, the problem is that he's 29 years old, nearly 30. Is he going to develop? Is he going to get better? And I don't think that's possible. So, looking at these comments by Clement, I think it's quite clear that Clement will push to bring in 1 to 2 strikers this summer who, in his eyes, have that killer instinct, have that finishing ability that Dessers sadly lacks. I fully support the manager. I think, whatever the manager wants, we have to back him. Clement has singly proved this season that he is more than capable of turning a very average squad into a decent squad that can compete. What could he do with a good squad? That is the question we have to ask. And like I said, he is saying that Dessers hasn't got that killer instinct. He's not a natural finisher, echoing, I think, what Chris Boyd said. Not that I think that Clement is parroting Chris Boyd for a minute, but Clement knows a player, and he is saying that this guy is too nice, does not have that killer instinct. I think we've got to listen to him. I think that is the best way forward. I do think that this summer we will bring in a couple of new strikers to improve this squad. Guys, let me know what you think of what Clement has said about Cyriel Dessers. I'm sure I'm about to get some slagging of it over this, as I always do. Thank you so much for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation. Guys, please smash that sub. And on the way out, there's 2 things I ask of you, which is number 1, please smash that like. And number 2, remember always, we are the people.